Yeah, look, something just come up. I've got to go. I'll get back to you tomorrow, all right? You're right. All right, you do that, yeah. Okay. Well?
There's something you forgot to tell me.
What's that, honey?
Just how incredibly stupid Nancy Lawson is. She bought the whole story. No questions asked.
Mr. Carruthers, did you hear the question?
No, I'm sorry.
The court record demands that you state your occupation.
Oh, yes. Well, or rather, I soon will be the people's representative from Kingsley's 16th District in the United States Congress.
I see. Then protocol demands that I address you as Congressman.
Well, if you wish. I'm really not very comfortable with titles.
Tell me, Congressman, what is your relationship with the victim?
Kate Carruthers is my wife.
How long were you married?
2 days.
How long have you known her?
Well, for over 20 years, and I think I loved her even then, although I never let her know my feelings. As long as she was married to the defendant, I never exhibited any improper behavior. I respected and accepted the choice that she had made. And then when circumstances became such that I could express my feelings, of course I didn't hold anything back.
Lee looks real happy
That's
about
when
it, too.
we became more than just friends.
Didn't
Did
end
she
up as
see any
friends,
other
though,
men
did they,
when
Sebastian?
you were pursuing this deeper relationship with her?
Well, not at first. And then the defendant came back to Kingsley, and they began seeing one another.
To your knowledge,
Now we should ask Lee if he ever
did
saw
he ever
other
talk
women.
of remarrying?
Yes,
And did you express your feelings on that matter to her?
absolutely. I told her I thought she was making a very big mistake.
Why?
Because Dave Phillips had the capacity to hurt her.
Oh, we won't say anything about Lee's capacity for the same thing, will we?
What happened to you, you brought on yourself.
Well, obviously, Dave Phillips and the victim didn't remarry. Do you know why?
She said it was because she couldn't deal with his bitterness and anger.
Can't wait to see how Lee deals
That
with
she
mine.
saw that I was
Look, will you
right.
get out of here? You're just a
Never be
spoiled
happy.
brat who didn't get what she wanted.
I was used.
You were treated just as you deserved.
Order. Now listen, if the spectators wish to have conversations with one another, you can do it outside of my courtroom.
Have a seat. And tell me exactly what happened.
Well, not much, really. I followed the script we worked out. The long-suffering wife tells the other woman just what she thinks about her.
Yeah. Oh, no, but you did say that you would not block the divorce, right?
Yes. The only way I could have made it clear would have been to spray paint it on the wall for her.
That's excellent.
She's really very common, isn't she?
That's about the kindest thing you could say about her, I think.
Well, so, now what?
Well, now I go back to her, of course, and just play into it.
Well, now try not to enjoy it too much.
Oh, come on. I'm sure you could tell that there's really not that much there to enjoy. Oh, you know, the other night she asked me why I always keep my eyes closed.
Spare me the explanation. I take it you'll be home late tonight.
Yeah. I'll try to break away, you know, as soon as I can. I'm sure you have plans.
Of course, of course. But I'll be back by 10.
Yeah, well, you just have fun.
I will.
Oh, listen, did you check about the reservations for the cruise?
Well, the travel agent called me and said she'd get back with me on Thursday.
That's good, yeah.
We will have enough money to pay for this, won't we?
We'll have more than enough. See, the malpractice suit goes to court next week, and then we'll get a check within a month.
Good. Just think. You and I together for 30 whole days.
Yeah.
I know that girl. There's something about her that's familiar.
You're gonna know her a whole lot better when I get her up there on that witness stand.
Yeah, but you don't understand what I mean.
No.
I saw her at the...
And if the defendant wishes to speak with his lawyer, he will do so more quietly. Continue with your line of questioning, Mr. Lockwood.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tell me, Congressman, after the victim broke up with the defendant and decided to acknowledge your proposal of marriage, were you aware of any conflict between them?
Yes, the defendant harassed Kate with phone calls and visits. He begged her not to marry me. She even called me up after one of those incidents, and she was very upset.
Well, did she express any fears for her physical safety at the hands of the defendant?
Indirectly. She had hoped that the defendant would be able to accept her rejection, but she was afraid that in his depression, he might start drinking again, and then if he'd... Sorry. Excuse me. She was afraid that a confrontation might result from it.
Thank you, Congressman. No further questions.
Mr. Webster?
Yes, sir, I'm ready, Your Honor. I'm not really one much for titles either, so I'll just drop the congressman, especially since you haven't taken office yet. But I'm fascinated. Does the word confrontation always imply violence to you?
No.
Well, when Kate expressed her concern for the defendant here, did she use that exact word?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, she did.
Did it imply violence to her?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
But you are saying that it did in this case.
I am saying that she was very concerned about the fact that he was going to...
Concerned? What happened to fear?
All right. Yes, if you wish.
All I wish from you is the truth.
And I am giving it!
No, Mr. Carruthers. What you and Mr. Lockwood have been giving us is a carefully worded statement that implies that the defendant is a violent man.
Objection, Your Honor. Defense had ample opportunity to object to my line of questioning. All this amounts to is intimidation of the witness.
Sustained.
About these phone calls and visits that the defendant made to his ex-wife, did she ever claim that he was violent during any of them?
No.
Verbally abusive?
No.
Well, then why do you suppose she was upset?
Because he was persistent.
Persistent about what?
He kept on saying that she shouldn't marry me.
Tell me, Mr. Carruthers, did you love your wife?
Of course I loved my wife.
You think she loved you?
Yes.
Was she considered a political asset to your campaign?
I wouldn't know about such things.
Really? You read the Kingsley Chronicle?
Yes.
Editorial page?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to reacquaint you with the editorial page of this one, September 26th. Heading over this editorial reads, Kate Phillips casts her ballot. Particular passage I'm interested in here. The whole thing, of course, is about the announcement of your engagement. But this says, in a campaign where it is increasingly hard to find any substantial difference between the candidates, it is clear that the alliance of Kate Phillips with Lee Carruthers is a decisive one. Voters are keenly aware that a yes for Carruthers would mean 2 representatives in Washington for the price of 1. Kate Phillips' record is no secret. Without ever holding political office herself, she has done more good for this state than any 5 politicians that readily spring to mind. A fact Mr. Carruthers could hardly ignore as he slipped the engagement ring upon her finger. So 3 cheers for the strange bedfellows politics makes. This congressional race has already been decided. Now, honestly, Mr. Carruthers, are you telling us that you didn't have any idea that your marriage would have political ramifications?
I am telling you, Mr. Webster, that I was very aware of how well Kate was respected. But I did not assume that that would be translated into votes at the ballot box. To do so would be incredibly naive of me politically.
Well, I think you are being naive. See, I can cite opinion polls, newspaper columnists, TV commentators, your own opponent, and the voters who would certainly subscribe to the theory that the announcement of that engagement was a turning point in the campaign.
Your Honor, if Mr. Webster is trying to make a point here, I wish you'd encourage him to do it. I find all of this totally irrelevant.
What is it you're trying to say, Mr.?
Only this, Your Honor. That my client, the defendant, may have had very good reason for not wanting his ex-wife to remarry. He may have thought she was being used. What I want to hear from Mr. Carruthers is if he ever heard any comments of that nature from the deceased.
Did you, sir?
No, Your Honor, I did not, very definitely. And I find this line of
Once
questioning...
you find this line of questioning, you may keep to yourself.
Order.
Now, tell us about your honeymoon. I understand it kind of got off to a rocky start.
I suppose you're referring to the fact that we left the reception early?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm referring to. Why?
Well, some guest made a very disturbing remark to Kate. But rather than causing a scene, I decided we ought to gracefully exit.
Well, can you tell us what was said and who said it?
Well, the gist of it was very close and almost the same as the wrongful insinuations here, Mr. Webster, but as to who said it, I'm afraid I don't remember.
I'm sure you are afraid to remember. Maybe if I do a little research, I can come up with a name. Where'd you go after you left the reception?
Well, Kate and I had reservations at the resort hotel at Avalon Springs.
Reservations, that means that's where you stayed?
Yes, that's what it means.
Now, I'm not sure I understand exactly. You are telling us that you and your wife left her lodge and drove to Avalon Springs and registered at that hotel.
Yes.
Mr. Carruthers, tell us, if you will, please, about the night of the murder. Why did your wife choose to stay at her daughter Amber's?
I don't know. I've been asked that question several times, and the only reasonable explanation that I can come up with is that she just didn't want to be alone. I mean, it's not a very satisfactory answer, but it's the best I can offer.
And she was going to be alone, why? Because you had a political commitment that you couldn't get out of?
That's right, a news conference and a meeting with the farmers in Perryville.
Which meant that you had to stay the night in that town.
At the Golden Inn, to be exact.
What time did you leave Kingsley for Perryville?
Well, let's see. I was in the office all evening preparing the speech. By the time it was reasonably shaped up, it was about 11 or 11:15. That means that I left about 11:30.
11:30. And you got there at what time?
1 a.m.
Hour and a half. To drive a distance of less than 40 miles.
I stopped and had a cup of coffee along the way.
I see. Well, what did you do when you got there?
I went to bed immediately because this meeting and news conference was scheduled for 4 a.m. in the morning, and I wanted to get as much sleep as I could.
Were you on time for it?
Yes.
Let me ask you this question. Suppose you'd forgotten something back in Kingsley, something was real important, something you needed notes for your speech, say. Would you have had time to get all the way back to Kingsley and pick up whatever it was and then come back to Perryville and still be there in time for that meeting?
Objection, Your Honor. The answer to that question has no bearing on this case.
I disagree, Mr. Lockwood. Now, I think defense is trying to establish that the witness might have had some unaccounted for time during the night of the murder. Now, I'm interested in his answer.
I think that the defense is making an
He
accusation.
is asking a question, Mr. Lockwood. Overruled. Would you have had time for such a trip, sir?
Well, of course, Your Honor. I It's only a 40-minute drive.
Thank you. Your Honor, I don't have any more questions from this witness, but I would like to reserve the right to recall him later if necessary.
Very well.
Thank you.
Mr. Lockwood, do you wish to redirect?
Yes, I have one more question, Your Honor, and I resent having to ask it. Congressman Carruthers, did you leave your hotel room that night?
No, I did not.
Thank you.
I know this must be pretty rough for you, but I want you to know I really feel that everything is going to be all right. Alicia's going to be fine.
I appreciate your optimism, but I still haven't stopped praying for her.
Yeah. You know, I was just kind of wondering that if maybe if we prayed together.
Honey, you've never asked to pray with me in your entire life.
I know. Well, I keep thinking about that Bible verse that Mom's always quoting. If two of you shall agree on anything.
As touching anything that they shall ask, and it shall be done for them, of my Father which is in heaven.
Yeah. Well, I can agree with you that God would heal Alicia from whatever's ailing her.
The witness may step down. We will adjourn for lunch until 2 p.m.
All rise.
That woman back there is Andrea Summers. We gotta get to her before Carruthers does.
Just a minute, Andrea.
Get your hands off me.
What are you doing here?
Can't figure it out, Lee?
You're going quietly with us right now, or else. Or else what, Mr. Knight? No, excuse me, please. Excuse me, I want to introduce myself to you. My name's Harold Webster. I'm an attorney, and looks to me like you could use an attorney about now. May I offer you my services?
Yes, Mr. Webster. Thank you.
Gentlemen, please excuse us.
Well, that's it. It's not it. We've come this far. We're not going to be stopped now by some little tramp.
I think we are just witnessing the beginning of the end here. I've just perjured myself, Sebastian. He knows that Kate and I were never at Avalon Springs, and now with Andrea here, he knows why.
Look, there are ways around all of this.
Oh, no.
Yes. Now, you've played the fool long enough for one day. You're going to listen to me. Let's get out of here.
At Leon's Diner, the night Kate was murdered.
Yes. I'm not surprised you don't remember. You were really
He had
out
an
of it.
allergic reaction to some medication he'd taken.
Yes, that whole night's a blank.
No, not anymore. Not now, it isn't. Now, Miss Summers, there really isn't any delicate way to bring up this subject, but our information suggests that you and the Carruthers
We're having an affair. Yes, it is true. And I can prove that almost everything he said up there on the witness stand today is a lie.
Oh, Dave.
We're going to do good news for you.
Just say it, Alex. We're prepared for the worst.
Well, she's past the critical point. She's going to be all right.
Thank you, Jesus.
Her respiration's back to normal, as are her other vital signs.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so very much.
Oh, I think your original thanks are much more appropriate, though.
Oh, but can we see her?
Yes, we'd love to see her.
Well, that's another reason I came out. I think the best thing for Alicia right now would be to have her parents by her side. You know, it was really amazing. Just a little while ago, she gave this tremendous cough.
Yeah.
And then her breathing became more normal. Yeah, come on.
If the two of you shall agree.
Now, Miss Summers, what time were you at Leon's?
Between 8 and 8:30.
Dave was already there?
Yes, he was sitting alone in the corner booth. I recognized him because he had been in Lee's office a couple of times.
Yeah, you said that.
Right. And then I came over and introduced myself. And I came over and invited myself to sit down. I figured that you and I would be feeling pretty much the same right about then. A kind of perverse pleasure at the thought of Kate throwing Lee out on his ear. But then I said something to that effect, and you didn't seem to know what I was talking about.
Yes, and when I asked you to tell me more, you refused.
Right. But that was just because I thought you were drunk. You kind of scared me.
Why?
Well, you lunged at me.
Yeah, I remember. That's not going to sound too good.
Oh, I have no intention of bringing it out.
Well, Harold, that even raises a doubt in me. I mean, I lunged at Andrea. I practically knocked Kate's front door down, and then I don't remember anything until the next morning. I was violent that night. That drug obviously had an effect
Dave,
on me.
stop
that way.
it. You didn't kill her.
None of us knows that for sure. I mean, the DA's going to get Andrea up on that
And
stand,
try
and I'm
to
going to look...
refute the testimony that I've gotten out of her. I don't intend to bring up any of this, so he won't be able to ask those questions. Dave, just relax.
Relax.
Let's get back to Lee Carruthers. When did your relationship with him get started?
The middle of the summer.
That was during the time that Kate was trying to decide if she and Dave had a future together?
Yes, but our relationship continued even after she came back to Lee. Now, as a matter of fact, the night that he announced their engagement, he told me he hoped it wouldn't affect our relationship. He said that he wanted us to continue after he was married to Kate.
You realize that the DA is going to take this information and make you look very bad.
He can do whatever he wants. The same information is only going to make Lee look even worse.
You're not embarrassed.
No, I'm past embarrassment. I'm just angry.
You think Lee killed Kate, don't you?
I think he was capable of it. Yes.
Harold, was it really necessary to hide Andrea out at a hotel like that?
Yeah, we can't be too careful, Terry. I mean, with what she knows, gotta be sure she's protected.
Well, who will the DA be calling to testify this afternoon?
I don't know. I thought Carruthers was gonna be his last witness. He must still have some surprises up his sleeve.
All rise.
Court is now back in session. Mr. Lockwood, do you have any more witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The state wishes to call Mrs. Terry Davidson to the stand.